This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am back here in the studios of Pod Populi, podcast for the people. I am at the one in Palm Beach Gardens, which I have not been at in quite some time. It's very nice here. If you have the means, Palm Beach Gardens. Quick note before I get into what I want to get into and who I want to get into it with. I know I guys have promised you the Bachelor and Bachelorette Party Spectacular. I've been teasing it for like 3 episodes now that I keep saying it's going to be the next episode. You guys have been absolutely burying us with these horror stories about your Bachelor and Bachelorette parties. I'm surprised anybody gets married once I hear all these. So I'm going to give it one more week because you guys just, even as of like an hour ago, I got like 30 more. Choose an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com with your horror stories, whether you were the bride, the groom, the best man, the maid of honor, or in a wedding party, or just did something really bad or witnessed something really bad at a bachelor party. And we have had 2 deaths so far at one of these things. So just tell you, that's where the bar is at these things. And many divorces and breakups. So caveat emptor if you're going to have a bachelor or bachelorette party. Send those in and we will get to that. I want to continue I don't know how to say this without sounding insulting. As I've said several times over the last couple of months, we're doing this series that are focused on women that are, say, plus 35. And they are what I think is the single best group of women that exists in the dating pool. However, they're the ones that have the most consternation, issues, quandaries, forks in the road, things to deal with. So I had somebody that I had some, I have a lot of questions for because she has had some forks in the road. She has made some changes. I don't know what she looked like at 23. She might never look better than now. I don't know. Her hair looks fantastic, so I'll give her that. Her husband was on here a couple months ago, and he told you guys how to spend your money or not spend your money, and it was very, very smart. So I brought in his better half today. She's the host of the Spoiled Milk podcast, and I'm going to let her explain why that is, because it leads to what I want to get into. Brooke Rash, how are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm laughing about the Bachelor-Bachelorette thing.
You're like, oh, I think I'd like to come back for that one.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I had a very interesting Bachelorette party. Yeah,
where was it?
It was in Vegas.
And of course it was. Mm-hmm. You know, we're going to break this down in the episode. The #1 place is Nashville for Bachelorette.
Well, I got married 21 years ago, so that was before Nashville was really on the map.
Right, exactly. It used to just be Vegas. 1 is Nashville, 2 is Scottsdale.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then there's Nashville or Vegas, Miami, and we will get into all of that. Spoiled Milk, where did that come from?
So it actually came from an internet troll. My husband and I were having an internet discussion about Leonardo DiCaprio and his tendency to date these girls that are so super young. And the most recent one is like 19. Now, keep in mind, he's almost 50.
Yeah.
And for us personally, it's really disturbing because we have a 19-year-old daughter, right? So Leo's older than us, and he's dating someone that is our daughter's age. And so through this like internet conversation, of course, a lot of people agreed with us that they thought it was disturbing. But then there are the people that were like, he's an adult, he can do what he wants to do. I just was like, this girl's like just got out of high school. But hey, whatever, I digress. So this one commenter said, well, of course he dates younger women because women age like spoiled milk. And I was just like, at first, like, it made my blood boil. And, I went, like, I started, like, keyboard, like, and then I was like, nope, like, back it up. And I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of, like, catchy. I think I'm going to, I was already, like, stirring on the whole podcast idea. And I was like, I think I'm going to use that because that's
You're
my
both offended and motivated.
Yeah, I'm like, that's my whole goal in life is to not become spoiled milk. Like I see these older women who they just quite honestly, they let themselves go. I'm not saying we shouldn't age at all. And of course, women should do what they want to do. Okay, if you want to let yourself go, let yourself go. I'm personally not going to be one of those women that becomes spoiled milk, that society doesn't even see you anymore because you're expired.
Yeah, I agree. Not to defend Leo, because I think it's weird. I think it's part of his brand at this point. That if he started dating somebody more age appropriate, and I'll let the world decide what that is, if he suddenly started to date like a 41-year-old woman, I think that makes him suddenly accelerate the way he's perceived into an almost 50-year-old man, because he still is come off as kind of boyish and whatever. Sort of like George Clooney. When George Clooney carried around this illusion that he was this perpetual bachelor for many, many years. He was married in his 20s for several years. That never, because part of his image was, I am bachelor, is George ever going to settle down or whatever? He didn't put that on his bio at all. So once he got married, people were like, oh, of course, that's who he was holding out for, this mature woman who runs his chair and everything. I'm like, no, this is his second wife. And I think it's all part of branding. And I think Leo, if he suddenly dates, 42-year-old woman, I think it shifts the appeal. So I think there's a lot of upside to him being seen with the 19-year-old Victoria's Secret model who he may actually not be dating.
I've heard rumors, but I'm not sure if we want to talk about that.
Okay, you turn into spoiled milk for those rumors. Yeah, there's a lot of famous men who have a lot of young models that they're probably not in the same house with. We'll just put it that way.
Right.
The subtitle of your podcast, because I want to get into that, is
The Hot Girl's Midlife Survival Guide.
Now, I've always very excited when the hot girl says she's a hot girl. It's very empowering. It takes back what most people are saying about you anyway, and it lets you control the dialogue. If it's okay, this is the way you perceive me, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to be perceived. And I am confident, and I am hot, and I am 40, and here's how I'm going to make the moves, and I'm a mom to navigate in the world. When did you decide to sort of own that?
When I was trying to come up with a subtitle, I guess, I'll be 43 on Friday. So in 2 days, I'll be 43.
Oh, happy birthday.
And I'm Gemini. And I'm sure that's not a surprise. But I've just always been told, like, people are just always shocked at my age. Like, just for years and years and years, people have always told me how young I look, and they always think I'm a lot younger. And now I have a teenage daughter. And so she and I will be out in public somewhere shopping, and we're having a conversation, and people will hear her call me mom. And they're, what? Like, they thought we were sisters. And so it wasn't like really an intentional thing, but I was like, maybe like I'm on to something with this whole like looking younger than I am and wanting to help other women feel good as they get older. So like my whole mission with this podcast and with, what I do for a living is to help women be the happiest, healthiest, and hottest in their 40s and beyond. So I feel like women get to the certain point where it's like they feel like it's too late. And that's really just people in general, but women especially, right? And so I'm like, it can actually get better, because you mentioned about what I looked like when I was 23. I was not hot when I was 23. I was overweight. I was not health conscious at all. I was like super inflamed. If I pulled up a photo of myself, you would be shocked. So it wasn't one of those things where I just was like, just effortlessly hot. Like, it's taken me a lot of intention, and I've had a lot of health issues that I've had to overcome as well through that process. So I just want to help women with all of the experiences I've had.
So when did you shift, morph, change from a woman who needed help to a woman who was providing the help? Was there like a fork in the road where you flipped the cards enough to think like, okay, I have a handle on this, and I've gone far enough down this journey that I think I can influence and have a voice in this conversation?
I mean, it's been ongoing, but I would say really for me in the last probably 6 to 8 months, one of my first episodes I did was the 3 shifts that I made in my health over the last year. And one of those big things for me was I lost 25 pounds. I had been really sick for about 3 or 4 years. I had mold exposure, which caused me to gain a lot of weight. and I finally got that weight off. Like I didn't feel good about myself this time last year. I'll just say that. Like I was definitely struggling. It was affecting how I was showing up. It was affecting my business, and that's why it's so important. That's why I really think it's so important, because when you don't feel confident, it affects how you show up and how you can impact others and impact the world. So I saw my business suffer as a result of, low self-esteem. So there was that. I lost weight. I got some things shifted and fixed with my health. And we moved to Florida. I was living in Colorado, which was beautiful, but it was cold for, I don't know, like 9-10 months out of the year. We had snow in the, at the end of May last year. My daughter graduated in a blizzard. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. I moved to Florida, and I just feel so good in the sunshine. Like it's just healing my body.
But you also can't hide behind the clothes anymore. You have to be out there. You're wearing less. You have to. And as I said, your husband is on this podcast. He's very fit.
Yes.
During that time, did that motivate you, or did that put you into like a darker hole because you were struggling with your health and you're struggling with your body? How does that work? Because normally it's the man who's kind of.
It's definitely a motivator, because he's always been fit and he's always been just into fitness. Like he's always looked good. Personally, I think he looks better now than he ever has at 45 years old. But yeah, I mean, it definitely made me self-conscious. I mean, first of all, I'm secure in my relationship. Ain't no bitch coming along and stealing my husband. I'll just say that.
Bitchy bitches.
But
biatches.
But I want to look good. I want to look good for him, but I want to look good for me too. So yeah, I mean, it definitely has made me feel self-conscious over the years, because he's always been more into the fitness arena than I have.
I wrote a line 20 years ago. I wrote this line. I wrote it in a play that I did, but I look back and I stand by it. And I said that a woman finds her way through her teens, finds her body in her 20s, finds her face in her 30s, and finds herself in her 40s. When did you feel you found yourself? Was that after becoming a mom? Was that after, like, was there a moment, like a light bulb moment where because, you and your husband both have shared fairly publicly your sort of rags to riches story. What was the light bulb that went on for you that had been like, I can do whatever I want to do, how I want to do it?
I think it would be really hard to define it into just one single moment. It's been a journey with lots of ups and downs and bumps, and it's not necessarily been linear.
Was there a lowest low though? Like, can you pinpoint that? There's just like, we have got to make some changes and fuck this. Because that's where the people are in the dating world, where I tell people all the time, you talk about moving from Colorado. I know you moved to Colorado. I know you've moved a bunch of times, where I say that if you are in a funk and you really need to shake up your snow globe, get the fuck out. Go somewhere else. Change your scenery, change your perspective, probably change your outcome. Was there a low point where you guys, or you on your own, were just like, I'm not doing 50 years like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's been several. I would say that the big shift for us started about 16 years ago when I started my first business. And that was, I had a 3-year-old. I was pregnant with my second child. I didn't want to just basically work to pay for daycare. And I knew I had to do something. So I started my first home business at the time. And that was when I first made that decision, like, I'm going to make a shift. And so it initially started as like a survival, like I need to be able to survive. And it shifted me into this state of just running after success and deciding I wasn't going to continue living the way that I was living. The next shift for me was in 2010 when my son was diagnosed with autism, and we just weren't really given any help from the medical world. Simultaneously, I'm dealing with my own health challenges. And, when you go to someone that is the expert and they basically tell you, good luck, I had a pity party for myself for a couple of months, I had to process everything. And then I was like, fuck this. Can I say that on
Fuck
here?
yes.
Okay. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And so, my son is 15 and he's doing great. But it was because I took that power into my hands. And honestly, that was probably the thing that really changed my health and just kind of got me to where I am now. Okay, so I will say this. Because of the changes that we made because of our son with our lifestyle and our diet and our health. I truly believe that because of that, my husband and I have aged substantially better than our peers. Like it was that rock bottom thing that was like awful for us that forced us to make those changes that now here we are 13 years later, and I'm actually thankful that happened, because if it hadn't, I would probably be 15 sitting here in this chair. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair across from you, but if I was, I would probably be 50 pounds heavier, dealing with all kinds of chronic health issues, not feeling good about myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Good. And I'm glad you're sitting in this chair. We have to pay for fresh milk around here. We are with the host of Spoiled Milk. She's an influencer and a whole lot of other things, Brooke Rash. We are going to get into a lot of that because I have a bunch of questions, but I got to take a break right after this. And we are back. Being an influencer means that you are setting yourself up for a whole lot of haters. Did you instantly learn to tune that out, or is it still to this day you're like, every time you go on social media you pay attention to that? How do you tune out that noise?
I mean, yeah, the louder you are, the more people you hear from, right?
Yeah.
So I think over the years I've gotten used to it. You know, people are going to have opinions. That's what, I work with women and I help women make money online. I help influencers leverage their platform. And people don't want to put themselves out there because they're afraid of judgment. And I'm like, why do you care? Like, those people aren't paying your bills. Like, people are going to have opinions of you regardless, no matter what you do. And so it definitely has taken me time in developing thick skin to just be like, oh, okay, whatever. Now, Jason, I will say he deals with it a lot better than I do. I think he really enjoys it. Like, he gets off on it.
Yeah,
like
he's a lot like me. I love it. As long as you're listening, send me the hate.
Yeah, but I definitely see how it can shut people down who aren't maybe strong enough to handle it.
Well, when you set some goals and you achieve some of them, I think it's positive to share them. I talked a little bit on that podcast with Jason about this. And as you said, and most people are just trying to get through the hour, much less the day. And especially if you are a parent, which I can understand from a distance, not up close. It is a shitstorm trying to survive every single day as a parent, which is why I am not one. It seems awful. But when you are in a place like this, a lovely part of the world, you are in Palm Beach and it is beautiful. You have a choice to look at these $20, $30, $40 million homes and look at them with envy or look at them as motivation. And I get that most people can barely, get through the week and pay your bills and cover that. It's really hard to see that as an option. But if you have an incremental goal that substantially moves you out of your place in life or your comfort zone and sort of shoot for that, that was what he said is the biggest mistake that people make, at least when it comes to money, is they don't make goals big enough. How do you go from a day of just like, listen, I'm just trying to survive, I'm just trying to get some answers here, to, is there a path for me to have a second home or a first home or a boat or move or private school or any of these things? How do you sort of harness the negativeness and still point your arrow in a better direction?
Mindset. I mean, here's the thing. I have a really hard time dealing with people who make excuses because we're all dealing with shit. All the things that you just talked about, everyone has, no matter what walk of life you come from, everyone's dealing with something, right? It's up to you how you choose to deal with it, right? And I came from nothing and I've made something out of myself because I chose to. I wasn't lucky. I wasn't privileged. No one gave me anything. Like, I've worked my ass off for everything that I have and every opportunity. Like, if it comes to me, awesome, or I'll chase it down if I have to, So it really boils down to mindset. Like, I'm just coming off of, I was sick for a few days, and that was really triggering for me after being ill for 4 years. I actually had to go to the ER because my fever got really high and I got dehydrated. I had to go get fluids. And anyhow, it all comes back to mindset. It's like, okay, I have to make a a mindset shift, right? You have to make a mindset shift, and you have to be intentional, and you have to work on your mindset every day. Every day is not going to be great, but as long as each day, as long as you don't stew in it, right? As long as you don't stay there. Like if you need to have a bad day, like have a bad day, but just don't let yourself stay there. And you mentioned about the homes here, and it's very interesting that you said that, because I feel like when we were in Colorado, we got a little complacent because people out there are just kind of like, like they're into nature and hiking.
You want to be out of your home.
Yeah.
In Colorado.
Yeah. It's a different vibe there. Whereas here, like people are motivated, like we've met a lot of really cool people here, and it actually helped us step our game up and start to dream again. So you can look at those houses and you can have envy and you can think negative things about those people. But the truth is, a lot of those people, of course, some of them are not first generation money, right? But at somewhere along the line, someone in their family had to say, this stops with me, I'm going to make a change. And that's what my husband and I are doing. So you can look at those people and you can be envious, or you can look at them and you can be inspired. And that's what they do for us here. Like, I'm glad we moved, because now I'm around bigger things and it's given me something more to work for, because you always have to have goals out in front of you. If you stop, you're just going to stop. Like if you stop dreaming and you stop setting goals, you're going to get complacent.
And you have got to get rid of the words, why her or why him? Like you have got to stop looking at other people as envy. You have to look at the other people as there are possibilities out there. We will bring this up on the Bachelor and Bachelorette Party show, but there's a different energy I shot a pilot for VH1 about this years ago. It was called Last Night, and it was about men and women's bachelorette and bachelorette parties. And the men wanted to go to bachelor parties to do bad things. The women wanted the bride to do bad things, because there was a certain element of jealousy and cattiness that they did not necessarily support her in this. And when you surround yourself with that negative energy, you should be like, great, she's getting married. That means it's possible for somebody to find happiness and love and whatever. That's a good environment to be around. When you are in a wealthy community like that, you shouldn't drive around being pissed off at the 1% or the 0.0001% that is here. You should be like, there are possibilities for people from all walks of life who took all paths to get there. When you surround yourself and you get rid of the envy of people around you, you should want people to be happy and successful and not look at it. It just means the odds are better than you thought that people can make it, right?
100%. You have to believe that anything and everything is possible for you. And if you don't believe that it's possible, then it's not.
And you're originally from where?
I'm originally from a really small town in Alabama.
Okay, so a really small town in Alabama. Is there always a point where you're like, I want to get out of my small town in Alabama? Because most of the people in your small town in Alabama are probably still in your small town in Alabama. Just like every town, 80% of people stay in their hometown regardless of what that is for most of their lives. Some of that is habit, some of that is laziness, some of that is family, some of that is just a really nice town. I don't know. I grew up in a really nice town. I don't want any part of it, but that's me. When did you be like, I want to get beyond my small town in Alabama? I want to get out of Alabama. Like, how did those increments go?
As long as I could remember. I mean, I grew up in poverty, so I remember from a very young age being like, why aren't we rich? I don't understand. Like, why do we not have money? Like, I see other people on TV that have money. Like, I want more. So, yeah, I always wanted to get out. And don't get me wrong, there are great people where I'm from, and I
love Alabama.
I appreciate my roots, because I really, especially my grandparents, like really raised me to have morals and, really developed who I am underneath. But I felt that, and anyone who is from a small town probably understands this, that there's a very limited thinking, especially when people never get outside of that area. So I knew I had to get out.
Right. You can always go back, but you got to get out to know whether or not you want to go back. You've got to leave at some point. I don't care how comfortable you're at. You've got to go try it. We bring that up on this podcast all the time, that we think if you are not in a committed relationship, or you're not, you need to move at least 700 miles every 7 years.
Yep. I
like
agree.
a real distance, not just from here to there, not 2 towns over. Like really experience what it's like to live in a different part of the country, even a different part of the world. You will discover more things about yourself than you ever will about the new town that you're in or the town that you left behind. And I think people don't do that. And I'm always, we run into a lot of people who are frustrated in their love, dating, relationship environment. They're going to the same bar they went to in high school. They're recycling the boyfriend from junior year. They're hoping the guy down the street who they had a crush on him got divorced. Like, there has to be a different sandbox to kick around in,
I know those people, actually.
Do you feel, when you're in communication with them, do you feel envy from them? Do you feel like you go, Brooke? Like, what are you getting back?
I just, like my best friend growing up, that's her kind of situation. Like, she's my age, she's divorced, she's doing the whole dating app thing, still in the same, like small town. And I just feel bad for her. Like, she's not like envious. She's always been supportive of me, but I just like, wow, like I'm grateful that I'm not in that situation personally.
Slight pivot here, and not to sound like your gay best friend, but you have fantastic hair, and I know you take great pride in that. Somebody told me this a couple months ago, and she was actually a doctor. She said the thing that people underestimate about what is going to help them look youthful and vibrant is not the color of their hair. They spend too much time worrying about grays. It's the health of their hair, and they say a healthy hair frames the face and sets up everything for youthfulness. Do you believe in that? And how do we get healthier hair?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have the wrong hairstyle and it can age you 20 years for sure. One of the things that people don't know, women especially, is that our hair actually ages faster than our skin. We're very busy slathering anti-aging skincare products all over our face and our neck and the rest of our body, but we're completely neglecting our hair and our scalp, and your hair health starts with your scalp. So if you support your scalp and you support scalp health, then you're going to have healthy hair growth. And then, of course, a lot of that has to do with what you're putting into your body as well. Like, what is your lifestyle like? What are you eating? Are you running through the drive-thru at McDonald's or,
And if you have that healthy glow, you're going to make yourself attractive and more noticeable and just look like you give a shit. And people worry way too much about the color, the grays, and don't worry about the rest of the stuff. I don't care personally about my hair, but I have hair. It's easier for me to say. The balding men out there, like, do something, work on it, look healthier, whatever. All right, I'm going to let you plug all your stuff and the podcast in a second, but this is your first time on the show. You have to think back to your many, many years to your swinging single days. We play something called worst date or first date. So you have to either give us the absolute worst date you ever went on in your life or the greatest first date you ever went on in your life. Your choice.
gosh. So here's the thing. You said you're swinging 20s. I met Jason when I was 19.
Okay, well, in your Alabama swinging teen days.
I dated a few losers. I'll just say that.
Okay. Well, what was your first date with your husband at 19? Do you remember? Or is it going down to the
Well,
creek?
I'll tell you the story of how we met. How about that?
Deal.
Okay. So we met in English class. We both enrolled in our local community college, and we were in English 101. And we kind of had ran in some of the same circles, but we never met each other. Well, he walked in, and I was immediately enamored. Like, who is this guy? I was attracted to his energy. And so it had been a few weeks, and then finally we go to a computer lab, okay? So this is dating it a little bit. So this is before we carried, like, computers in our hand, right? So you had to go to the computer
40s,
lab.
yeah.
You had to go to the computer lab for whatever the project was. And he comes in late, the last seat available, sitting next to me at the computer lab. And so I'm over there feverishly typing because I've always been a social media girl, even like from the very beginning. And he's like, "So what are you doing over there?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just talking to my friend in New York." And now keep in mind, we're in Alabama, so I don't, have a network at this point. But like, oh, you're talking to someone in New York, like now that's like no big deal. But in the year 2000, we had just survived Y2K. Okay, this is where we're at. And he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's AOL Instant Messenger." And he says, I know, right? And I probably downloaded it illegally on the school computer too. Now that I think about it, I'm sure it wasn't on there, or installed it. But he says, "Hey, I just got a computer for Christmas, actually, and would you mind coming over to my place after class and showing me how to install this program?" So of course I'm like, "Well, yeah," like, because I totally had the hots for this guy. So that was really kind of our first date. I had a tutoring session afterwards because I sucked at math, and my tutor happened to live in the same neighborhood as him. So I was like, after my math session, which I totally didn't pay attention to at all, I'm like, I'll swing by and I'll show you how to install this program. And so I go over to his house and I show him how to install the program, and we hung out and talked for a while. And I remember I was so angry not so angry, okay, I was disappointed that he didn't like try to kiss me like the first time that I went over to his place. He's like, all right, see you later, and shut the door. And I was like, what? Come to find out, he had a girlfriend he had to break up with.
Wow.
But years later, I found out, it was probably like 10 or more years later, all of a sudden, we were talking to someone and he tells them that he actually ran home after class and he deleted AOL Instant Messenger off of his computer. So he acted like, played dumb. He acted like he didn't know what AOL Instant Messenger was so he could get me to come back to his house.
There you go. AOL Instant Messenger love. And there you go. Dump the girl, kiss the girl. That's a good lesson. Good. That's a good story,
so
too.
He had integrity, but I can't remember like a worst date. The worst date I ever had with Jason was our second wedding anniversary when we went to Macaroni Grill and his card declined.
Yeah, he told the same story.
Yeah.
Wow. That was good. My first time in Alabama, and this is going back to the phone book days. There were a phone book. I was looking for restaurants, and I saw under Italian restaurants, and I just saw Domino's, and I was like, oh, I'm not in New York anymore.
No, but
I just remember the respect I got when I said I was from New York. Somebody goes, they go, where are you from? I go, New York. Where? New York City. And they go, oh, do you have sex with supermodels? And I'm like, well, no. There's like 12 million people there. Maybe 4 have sex with supermodels. Leo is one of them. I was not one of them. So that was my Alabama experience.
Like for me, like my impression of New York City was like watching Friends in the 90s, growing up as a teenager.
That's how a lot of foreigners learn English. They watch Friends. Get 6 people talking at the same time. That's not a good impression of New York because nobody affords that size apartment at that age. So anyway, all right, plug your world to the world.
Plug my world. So check out my podcast, Spoiled Milk. It's the Hot Girls Midlife Survival Guide. It's really the health and beauty podcast for women over 40. So if you're into health and beauty, or you just you want to make some improvements in your life and you don't really know where to start, that's really the place. It's going to be with your health and it's going to be with your beauty. But we talk about some other things too. Like I said, my mission is to help women live their happiest, healthiest, hottest lives in their 40s and beyond. You can find me on Instagram is where I like to hang out. Brooke Rash. That's all I got.
There you go. Find yourself in your 40s. You were good. Thank you. As far as us, as always, like, share, follow. Please review not just Spoiled Milk, but this podcast too. Your reviews always mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com if you've got questions, comments, thoughts for Brooke, for me, about anything, plus last call to get in your bachelor party. I promise this is the last time that I'm doing it. Go to greatlovedebate.com. We do have live shows coming up. Our 10th season of our live tour rolls on. We have a show at the Tempe Improv in Tempe, Arizona. First show in Arizona since I think 2016. We are at Good Nights Comedy Club in Raleigh, North Carolina. City Winery in New York. I'm sure I will do one more show down here in Palm Beach County at the Boca Black Box Theater. Might not be till later this summer, but go to Great Love Debate for tickets and information on that, because as always at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.
Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.